You know who you are. I use my jetpack to engage. I start absolutely destroying the Majorus in a 1v4. My teammates throw a grenade and I get stun locked. My teammates throw a grenade and I get stun locked. Yeah, this has been popping up a little bit recently. I feel like friendly stagger for grenades is something that is kind of glossed over. I know some people like to throw grenades in packs of enemies, and if there's a teammate there, just, you know, that's just the situation. The teammate gets staggered. However, if your grenade doesn't stagger every enemy in that area, and potentially there might be a bone sword that, you know, just hops into the fight and ignores the grenade entirely, you can definitely put your teammate in a situation where they get stun locked, because there is friendly grenade stagger. So be very careful with throwing your grenades, especially if you have teammates, you know, engaging a pack of enemies. My 2 cents with this is normally I only throw the grenades in there if I see every enemy in that area going after my teammate, basically. If there are enemies that are kind of outside of the range of the, you know, the blast radius of the grenade, those type of enemies still can just jump directly in that engagement and start teeing off on your stun lock teammate. So be very careful. Be very mindful of the enemies in the area. The only time I even think it's a good idea to throw grenades near your teammates is if you're like going to finish off an extremist. It has to be like a threat to risk situation. You know, the ratio there has to be, you know, correct. The threat has to be so much higher than the risk of stun locking your teammate. No, to be completely honest, grenade stagger is kind of a pain to play around. There's definitely been moments recently where I kind of just put up my hands and I'm like, I have a really good grenade here and I can kind of just finish off this engagement. If you get hit by something, I'll give you the next stim pack. But luckily, that has not happened. And frankly, the amount of moments that I see that you basically want to throw grenades while your teammates are in that fight, like those type of moments really aren't that, they're not that common. It's pretty rare to actually be in a position where you want to throw your grenades in a pack of enemies that your teammate is engaging with. I think shock grenades are a pretty good way to do this, but your teammates are going to get stunned by the shock exploding anyway, so overall, just don't. I know I'm trying to sit here and paint a position where it's like, oh, I mean, it's not going to immediately get them killed if, you know, all the enemies get stunned. It's still extremely risky. Now, there's one spot, there's one fight that I think can kind of amplify this issue a bit. So I'm going to jump into a post talking about that, and hopefully they describe their situation a little bit better than I did. Friendly tip for our new battle brothers. If you're playing Decapitation and a valiant brother is soloing the Hive Tyrant using melee, please do not chuck frag grenades at them. They do virtually no damage to terminus enemies, but they do stun lock your battle brother, causing him to be stunned during a crucial dodge of an unblockable attack or a parryable attack on higher difficulties. This can lead to taking out all of your armor and a pretty significant chunk of health. Yeah, this is the moments where you really need to be careful with grenades. I'm not too concerned with like a 1v4. Like honestly, if you throw a grenade in a 1v4, you should be able to stagger all of the Majorus, and hopefully your teammate doesn't get, you know, hit by anything there. But with the Hive Tyrant, in the Hive Tyrant fight, this can get pretty tricky because they do spawn in waves of mobs, and those mobs definitely deserve a grenade somewhere because those mobs come in with a gaunt. There's normally like enraged majors. They're not just easy to take out unless you know, go for the unraged major, then not raged. But yes, in this fight, if you throw a grenade at a pack and you have a teammate near the Hive Tyrant, you're going to end up stun locking your teammate, and then potentially the Hive Tyrant can take advantage of that because the Hive Tyrant has they have animation locks on some of their attacks, where if you're not doing a ground slam, you're not going to stun the Hive Tyrant. Ground slams very good for stunning the Hive Tyrant. Obviously the jetpack slam from Assault. But yeah, in this fight, if you throw a grenade to stun your teammate, well, if you throw a grenade to help out your teammate who's getting surrounded by mobs, you can definitely potentially stun them, and they can potentially get hit by AoE attacks or the sword swings from the Hive Tyrant. So this is where friendly grenade stagger definitely can become a problem. Look out for your brothers. He may be carrying the chapter's gene seed, costing you a juicy 30% free experience boost at the mission's conclusion. Have fun out there, and welcome to the Eternal Crusade. If you're a fledgling space marine, feel free to DM me for tips or questions. Oh, okay. You may be too embarrassed to talk about. That's funny. Alright, well, hey. Ultimately, thanks for the post. This was a pretty good call out because, yes, I have seen a fair amount of grenade stagger recently. But yeah, like I was trying to say earlier, it's grenade stagger, or at least friendly grenade stagger can be a problem if the enemy isn't getting hit by the grenade. So, like, for example, you have a teammate who is surrounded by majors, you throw a grenade in there, but right after the impact of that grenade, the Ravener jumps up from the ground, grabs your teammate. That teammate unlikely had any chance to dodge there because you stunned them with a grenade. So, yeah, you definitely have to be very mindful with, friendly grenade stagger. And yeah, recently I have seen an uptick of it. So it's been months since we talked about this, and it hasn't really been on my mind since we have been talking about stun locks to talk about this, because I do think this could potentially lead into, some stun lock issues, but ultimately this is very avoidable. Just, place your grenades that are away from your teammates. But yeah, regardless, just be very mindful. Don't throw your grenades at your teammates in Hive Tyrant especially, because I think Hive Tyrant can be pretty resistant to some of those explosions, and he can essentially hyper armor through those explosive attacks. The only thing that can really stun him consistently would be the jetpack from the assault class. I think throwing grenades near your brothers in general is a terrible idea and should be avoided. I get that I'm surrounded by Majorus and you're trying to help me, but I promise I'm fine, and that was not all helpful, it was the opposite. Okay. Yeah, you definitely see a few amount of commenters talking about a recent increase in friendly grenade stagger. A lot of people kind of contribute that to the fact that Space Marine 1 and Space Marine 2 was on sale. Well, Space Marine 2 was on sale. Space Marine 1 had a remaster or something. But yeah, unfortunately, that remaster didn't get that much praise, which is kind of weird because there's already like a remastered Space Marine or something. I don't know. Regardless, yeah, it definitely feels like there's been a increase. There's definitely been an increase in friendly grenade stagger. I get that I'm surrounded by Majors and you're trying to help me. Yeah, sometimes if you're just like surrounded by 5 or 6 Majors, you are okay. You're just waiting for them to attack so you can parry them or something. Or like a blocking situation. But yeah, ultimately when people see you surrounded by that many Majors, I really understand why they're trying to help you out, because it does look pretty, it looks pretty one-sided. But we are Space Marines. We can definitely take out a handful of Majors at a time. That's pretty much where you should be when it comes to higher difficulties also, is you shouldn't be afraid of a pack of Majors. In fact, a pack of Majors, depending on the Majors, are sometimes the funnest fights. If they're bone swords, as long as you're hitting your parries and blocks, you should be fine. The only thing that is annoying for me when it comes to Majors is backtracking. Like, just, you have a giant claw, throw it. Throw the giant claw at me. But yeah, ultimately, definitely keep an eye out for your teammates who are being surrounded by Majors. They may or may not need help, and sometimes just go in there with the melee attack should be all the help they really need. They don't really need a grenade. But yeah, sometimes I definitely can be in a situation where I'm like, hey, pack of Majors, let's throw a grenade at it and not really think about it. But yeah, if I notice my teammate gets stun locked or gets harmed by my grenade in any capacity, I definitely try my best to, point out the next stim for them, point out the next armor for them, Guardian Relic or whatever. But yeah, just ultimately, make sure you protect your teammates. Don't stagger them in bad situations. This is also this also has a lot to do with just comprehending what is going on the field. You just want to make sure you can see all the enemies and make sure you know where they're at, and just battle analysis. If you throw a grenade at an enemy and your teammate's near there, and your teammate's going to get stun locked, if there's a Ravener somewhere or a Lictor, that teammate is now in a position to get grabbed, and your grenade did that. So battle analysis. Keep track of what is on the screen. Is there a Ravener? Be careful. I remember the epidemic of people spamming frags had other people convinced that the grenade launcher staggered teammates. In reality, it was some jerk throwing 3 grenades, one after the other. Oh yeah, I remember that. That was a while ago. Wow, that was a long time ago. It was like around launch, basically. And yeah, somebody had a post of the grenade launcher, and they were showing how it staggered teammates or whatever. It was weird. But ultimately, I don't think Yeah, I don't think the grenade launcher staggers teammates. So you should be okay with that, but it is kind of funny how that was, yeah, an epidemic. Yeah, that was the last time we talked about it. That was definitely the last time we talked about grenade stagger, and that was before the grenade launcher nerf. So that was a pretty long time ago. Honestly, in that case, I'm not really surprised something like this is popping up again. But yeah, definitely be careful. Definitely be careful when you're throwing grenades in pack of enemies when your teammates are in, while your teammates aren't engaging those enemies, because depending on spawns, you could have just staggered your teammate directly into a Terminator grab or something, or disc shamans. Like, yeah, any sort of enemy. Like, you just have to keep track. If all the enemies are around your teammates, you should be okay if you accidentally stagger your teammates. But if it's like spread out, you could definitely have like a disc shaman just throw their disc that way as, your teammate is recovering from the stagger and just immediately get some good damage on them. Yeah, you can definitely put your teammates in pretty bad situations with grenade staggers. So I think this is an important discussion to have, 100%. But yeah, it is kind of funny how, with the grenade launcher, everyone was kind of really confused on if the grenade launcher was staggering your teammates or not. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you actually still use the grenade launcher. I haven't seen it in a long time. This is why shock grenades are the best. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the initial explosion still has stun for your teammates. And you know what, maybe it doesn't. So definitely wanted to make sure I covered this part because I did make that claim earlier in the video. So I could be wrong about this. Yeah, let me know in the comments if you guys, know about shock grenade stun. I don't really go out of my way to see if my teammates are stunned by shocks, but I just kind of assume. However, if this is the case, that is a pretty fair point. You could just, litter the ground with shock grenades and your teammates should be fine. The crack grenades are kind of interesting too, but I guess I'm thinking about big targets. If you throw a crack grenade at the top of their head, maybe your teammates have more time to escape or something. But yeah, ultimately, just be mindful of your grenades. Be mindful of your teammates. Be mindful of what enemies are on the field. Make sure you don't stagger your teammates into a lictor grab or combo or something. Yeah, just be careful. Be careful. But anyway, let me know in the comments if you actually had any grenade stagger experience recently, or have you seen an uptick of friendly grenade stagger? And thanks for watching.